we have a direct injection, turbocharged 2-liter. It's already had a couple of modifications done, airbox, some cosmetic stuff. Got a nice little downpipe modification back there. And then we have the sound delete for the intake into the turbo. This car has a stage 2 tune on it. It had the stage 1, unbelievable difference in it. Now that it has the stage 2 in it, there's a couple other modifications that need to be done. First and foremost, we will be installing a new intercooler onto this with some charge pipes. And then, not really having to do with the stage 2 tune, but more of a maintenance type item. Because it's direct injection, we will be adding a catch can for the PCV system. The main reason why you add a catch can is to catch any oil particles so that they don't make it back into your intake system and then potentially to your turbo and or most importantly your valve. When it comes to the direct injection system, the valves themselves don't really get that cleaning effect that the injectors would spray fuel and the fuel additives and cleaners over the intake valves. So without that, those oil particles tend to hit the valves and start creating carbon deposits. I have another video where we did a catch can on an Audi S5, the V8, and its valves were so bad, it only had 70,000 miles on it. They needed to be walnut blasted and cleaned. They looked like new when we were done, but it looked like the motor had 300,000 miles on it and it only had 70. So we're gonna do some preemptive maintenance to protect this engine from that same fate based on, I don't know if these engines had an issue with it, but to have it as compared to not have it, I'd rather have it. So my friend's decided that's what he wants to go with. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So we'll be doing the catch can and an intercooler for his stage 2 tune. Who did the tune?
034.
034 did the tune? Okay. So basically this is an 034 modified R. And I can tell you right now, that's my M3 back there. And on the highway, this thing made it look pathetic. And that's without the intercooler mod and stuff, but the temperatures are rising around here, so we want to protect that engine as much as possible. All right, so as you can see, the first thing we did was raise it up. You can do that at your house. The R's have this nice little logo on their calipers. You're gonna need to gain access to a couple of these torques. There's one there, and one there. There's also one here and one here at your brake air inlet. What is also going to need to come off on the car will be the grille, obviously the bumper cover. We'll be taking the shroud back off. We'll most likely be removing the air box so that we can install the charge pipes. As we get that, we're going to be taking the wheels off too, just to make it easier so we don't have to turn the wheel back and forth to gain access to those. You're going to need a
8mm triple square.
Okay, this is an 8 triple square, and that is to get your covers.
They're tight, but that's it. I've got the other 5 off already.
Yep. So there you go. Even I'm learning something new today. Ooh, we got a lock on there too. We'll get this done. We'll start taking out some screws, and I'll give you an update. Now, once you have your wheels off, which we do, it's suggested that you get like an old comforter, or as you can see here, we're using towels. The reason why you do this is, especially if you're doing this by yourself and you don't have a friend helping you, you don't want your pretty beautiful painted parts to fall off the car and get all scratched up because of something as simple as, who knows, wind and or it slips out of your hand. So it's just a nice protective measure to do, and I would definitely suggest it. So far we've removed a lot of T25s. The ones that I showed you earlier in here, There was a couple going across here, and then we're removing the brackets that hold in the headlights. Now on the driver's side, you'll notice that it has an extra little piece compared to the passenger side. What that driver's side is hood release, and it's got clips that once you unbolt it from right here, here, and here, you can pick it up, use a pair of needle nose, squeeze these in, and pull it out. I don't recommend sticking a screwdriver in there and prying because you might break these. The next step will be removing the front grille. Hopefully at that point we can remove this. Now, when you take off your front bumper, remember you have sensors here. There should be a main harness that allows you to unplug that. But I also noticed we have an ambient air temperature sensor here. Make sure that that's not attached to your bumper and that it's attached to the main structure so you don't pull on the wires. You don't want an engine code after you do all this work. We've removed his side-mounted license plate bracket that is in the hook area for a tow truck. So it's a nice upgrade. And we've gotten both of these out of the way so we can remove the headlights to gain better access to everything. Now we're removing the 034 airbox. Beautiful job. I love this carbon fiber. It's a very cleanly built part. You're gonna have a series of T25s holding it in place, and then you'll have a little vacuum line over here that you have to replace. You'll have your connection port back here, which I've already loosened up, and then this will come off. The reason we're taking the airbox out is to get to the charge tubes. All right, we've removed this. Now you have to remember when you're removing this, you are going to have to take that plug out. There is a series of clips, as you can see, there, and there, and there's 4 over here. When pulling on this, it won't act like it wants to come off, but you will eventually get it off. Just be aware that plastic is plastic and you can break it. So take your time and be gentle with it, but it will come off.
Do the top ones first.
What he said. See the little nubbins there? Do those first and then work the bottoms. I had to take a phone call, so he went nuts, removed the engine cover, give us a little bit room here and there. Next, we will be taking off this, and this to hopefully allow us to pop the bumper cover off. All right, in the driver's side wheel well, you'll see that there is a plug right there. It's a little dark, I know, but it's got a simple push clip on it. You're gonna have to detach that so that all of your sensors in the front of the bumper aren't still attached to your car when you take off your bumper cover. All right, this is the clip we're talking about. They can be a pain when you can't see them. Take a little screwdriver in here, like so, and then pressed, just gave it a little bit of a tweak. Just a little bit of that until I heard a snap, which was this inside here, right there, popping up and releasing it from the hook. It's on the female end of it. All right, when removing this, sometimes you can just pry on them and get lucky because these have a little bit of movement in it, but this is a pretty firm piece of plastic. So what I would recommend doing is after you've removed the Torx that is going through up into your fender, underneath here from your fender, there are 2 10mm, one there and one there. You don't need to remove that Torx, but what that will do is it will allow you to pull this down enough to gain access to your release clips. And you have less chance of breaking your tabs here, 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 and here, and less chance of hurting this piece. Nothing worse than a car that literally looks like your bumper covers are held on by zip ties. But they're just 2 10mm. They're made out of plastic with metal inserts. And then once you get them off, you can put these back on. Right, so we were able to get the bumper cover off. You have your retainers here, there's a couple here, and then across here. Now, they're held in place here. We had already removed the Torx screws. You have to press down on these clips to get it out, and they are a pain in the butt. We only had one break though, so there's still plenty to retain it, so I don't think this piece needs to be replaced. Now the next thing to do will be to get off your actual bumper. This is what helps you in a crash, not that. Now when removing the headlights, you're gonna have the one here, one down there. You'll see this little half moon crescent. There's a 30 down in there. You'll have the one up here, which should have already been removed when you removed the bracket. Now, on the side bracket, this plastic piece that we talked about earlier, that you had the two 10s, there's also another 30 that holds it in there. You want to take that out, and that should give you access to remove it completely. Then your headlight will be out of the way, which will make access to your bumper bracket, the 17 millimeters, to get that out of your way, make it a lot easier to get to those. Slight correction, these weren't 17s, they were actually 16 millimeters. So you're gonna wanna remove them. Once your headlights are out of the way, it makes it a lot easier. So what we need to do here, support the core. Your AC condenser, your intercooler, and your radiator. Before you pull off this, you'll notice there's two T30s, one here, one down here. Take those off. That way you can remove this without having the whole assembly try to fall forward. We're just trying to remove this front structure and leave this structure up there. This is the front structure. Once we had those taken off, disconnected our horns, we removed the two T30s that hold the hood latch in place. You can't really gain access to these. They're actually behind a piece of plastic that goes across, and that gets your front structure off. Next, we're working on getting the plastic pieces out that are snapped in so we can pull the condenser back. And as you'll see here, these clips on the inside, they need to be pried down and pulled out to get them to snap out. On this bottom one that was giving me such a headache, turns out the only thing on the bottom that's holding it in is that little tiny clip right there. And it goes into that slot. So if you can get down in here, push on the back of it, it'll pop that right out. On your condenser, there is a clip holding it down here, and it's also an air diverter, so it's got some rubber on it. Basically, you want to unlatch it from here, slide it up and out up there, and then you should be able to just wiggle the unit out by pushing some of the shields and stuff to get this out of your way. That allows you access to hopefully push your condenser up very carefully. And when popping this out on your intercooler, there's a tab right up here that has to be pressed inward, and then this can get pushed up and then down and out of your way.
We need to be able to somehow support it.
Do you have some bungee cord or something? And this exposes our intercooler. Nice stock plastic tanks. Definitely not what's going to be in here when we're done. Here's a hub pull hint. Once you've gotten your condenser out, take a little bungee cord, hook it up there so it doesn't stress the lines at all, and hook it over here to keep pulling it this way. That way it will keep it from being in your way as you're removing the plastic housing around your intercooler. All right, we're going to give a nod out to Humble Mechanic, who showed us his way of doing this. We're using a small pry bar to put a little bit of pressure on the back of the intercooler housing while attempting to press down these little white clips to get it to pop out of the housing. Speed is not your friend here. Take your time and try not to force it if you can. This is very thick plastic and it doesn't want to move. How about a pair of needle nose to squeeze in on each other?
I don't think I'll be able to get it under there and it'll slide off.
Good point.
I think I need a wider flat blade.
Okay. Some videos, they have it where you don't have to take a lot of this stuff off. The reason we're doing this is to do everything we can to not have to drain the coolant out of the system. This right here is German engineering for you. Any other car would just have a simple tab off the side with a bolt holding it in place.
Just about. Yeah, Humble Mechanic made this look a lot easier than it is. So, good job, dude. This is very hard plastic.
Okay, I think you got the top one.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay, let me get the bottom one.
I can just barely see the tab squeezing up and down.
Ooh, I got the bottom one.
All right.
There we go. Das ist gut, ja.
Definitely a stressful moment in this job because you don't want to break that clip. I can't imagine how much of a pain in the ass it is to order that thing from Volkswagen.
Top tip. These didn't work. These did.
Bigger sometimes is better. We were able to get the clips. This is what they actually look like. And you're trying to get these down and in and then separate them using the pry bar from the plastic housing that goes around everything. So next we'll be disconnecting it from the radiator itself, removing this because we've already taken off the discharge pipes. And hopefully that will give us access to put the new pipes in, the new intercooler on, and we can button it all back up. Putting them next to each other, you can noticeably see that there is a very large difference between the two. And as for the thickness of the core itself, I would say it's probably going to be at least about a ½ inch thicker. That'll give you quite an increase in cooling capability.
Actually, we should line up the stock one versus the new speed versus the 034.
Okay. I've removed the discharge pipe. Actually, this would be more of the turbo boost feed pipe. You've got a T30 way up top, but then you have one that bolts to the block way down below. And as you can see by the comparison of the two, there's the one, and there's the other one. Suffice it to say, it fits inside itself. This was the stock.
Yep.
This is your stock. This makes it just a little bit quieter. And then he upgraded to this one before doing the stage 2 tune. As you can see, I think they run about the same size, but what this does is it deletes the muffler part of it. And then on the upgraded intercooler, you jump all the way up to that bad puppy. And that's what we're going to be installing next. Now this adapter flange kit that basically bolts to the inlet side of the turbo housing.
This is the discharge, actually.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that myself. I'm like, nope.
Here's the inlet.
Yeah. That has 3, what size are they?
I want to say they're 6mm.
6mm Allens. That need to be put on before we can put on the other the main feed tube to the new intercooler. Putting the new speed in, you'll have a bolt here. You'll have the one that's underneath behind this tube right here that's clipped in. There's a bolt back there. And this, and I'd recommend doing it without this pipe on, because you can get it back through down here. And then hook that pipe on, tighten it down good and snug so you don't have to worry about the pressures blowing it off. And your new speed tube that is much better for airflow will be installed. All right, outside of putting the wheels back on, getting them torqued down, getting the license plate back on, and putting on the grill, making sure to plug it in when we do it, and putting the engine cover back on. We've still got a couple other things to button up. The air cleaner needs to go in. The intake for the air cleaner also needs to go in. But outside of that, everything's been done, completed, is looking good. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. It's appreciated. Thank you. Have a great day.